Good evening. Hello, hello, hello. My name is Dallas Cohen. I am the rebound coach, and I am super glad that you're here today. Today is the first time we're doing a special simulcast, both here on Facebook and on Clubhouse. So if you are on Clubhouse with me, thank you so much. This is the first time I've ever started a room or hosted a room. So you guys are guinea pigs with me. I appreciate you coming on. This is a listen only Clubhouse room, just so I can get used to how to do both of these things at the same time. Today, we are just in listen only mode. So if you do have something you want to interact with me, I do want to hear your comments and your questions and your interaction. But we cannot do this on Clubhouse because I'm not going to multitask very well. So what you can do is connect with me on Facebook, where I am taking live streaming and taking live comments. So you can do that there, and or connect with me through thereboundcoach.com or any of my social media at the Rebound Coach. I will give a shout out to Sanctuary, our host club right now, Sanctuary Experience. I am really, really blessed to be a part of the club. It's a powerful mastermind group. So if this is your first experience, you're listening to the replay or watching the replay here on Facebook. If you're on Facebook and you also Clubhouse, please check out the Sanctuary XP Club on Clubhouse by Malikia Courtney, who is also amazing. So, all right. So that is enough housekeeping for the moment. Actually, it's not. So today is Tuesday, and typically I've been going live on Tuesday nights for months and months and months. For the next few months, at least, we are shifting our weekly lives to Wednesdays. So starting next week, we will be coming live on Wednesday and finishing off our series on all things new. So very excited to share with you some thoughts today. And going forward in the weeks to come, we will be on Wednesday evening to join me live, 9:30 Eastern. Of course, you will be able to find replays both on my Facebook, here on Clubhouse, and then we're also working on some YouTube uploads. So all of that to say, we're coming in more than one way to reach you, because we want to be able to help you choose life and rewrite your love story and change your legacy. So Rewrite Your Love Story is the name of today's session. It's the name of the room on Clubhouse, and that's the conversation that we are doing today. So super excited that you're all here. If this is your first time getting to know me, it's your first time spending time with me in a virtual space, I want to say thank you for coming. Thank you for listening to 3 minutes of me figuring myself out. Again, my name is Dallas Cohen, and a little bit of information about me. I go by the Rebound Coach, but well before I was the Rebound Coach, I was raised in a Christian home with two parents that loved God, they loved each other, and they were married for a lifetime. I actually saw what it was to have my father be my mother's caretaker. She was terminally ill, and he was her caretaker. And I saw a beautiful example of how to serve a spouse, right? At the same time, I was molested from the time I was 8 to the time I was 16. And so that radically affects how you see yourself. I was in a faith-based home, so how I related to God was severely affected, and then how I related to men. So fast forward, when I met the man that I married, there were definitely red flags, definitely warning signs that this was not going to be easy or smooth sailing. But I had a couple things going. Number one, I believed that God was with us. And number two, because I believed God was with us, I believed that no matter what happened, that we'd be able to overcome any trouble. We'd be able to overcome any challenge. And the truth is, trouble came right away. You know, people have honeymoon periods with their relationship. That is not what happened in this case. Trouble came right away and never quite left. We would get to a point where, you know, we were kind of barely hanging on. It's what I call coping. And then a crisis would occur. And then we kind of get back on track to coping, and then a crisis would occur. And I called it a cycle of coping and crisis. And things came to a head in January of 2020. And the man I had been married to for about 10 years, we were getting close to the 10th year, had left for another woman. And the following day, I found out him and that woman had been plotting my murder for months by the time I found out. Needless to say, this was, a come to Jesus moment. If you ascribe to that, it was a moment I had to stop and reconsider my entire life. I was threatened on every level, as a woman, as a wife, as a mom, as a child of God, and as a coach. I had been a life coach for I've been a life coach overall 20 years total, and at that time I had been coaching relationships for about 5 or 6 years. So if you can imagine having an entire identity, an entire platform around a faith-based marriage, and why you should stay married at all costs, and why God believes you should stay married no matter what, and helping women stay married in very difficult marriages. That was my entire platform. And to have that very thing be the thing that's crumbled on the floor at my feet, it was extremely challenging, and I had a choice to make. And it's a choice I continue to make every day. And we're going to talk about that in a particular fashion today. But the choice I had, I could allow who my ex-husband now, who he had planned for me to be, the identity he had for me. He had an identity in mind for me that he wanted me to live out. And I could allow that to tell me who I was. Or I could choose life. And so coming out of that entire situation, I've written a book. It's my second book, and it's called I Choose Life, Rewrite Your Love Story and Change Your Legacy. And it's not just, it is a memoir, but it's not just about my story. It is a instruction manual for those who have lived through betrayal, trauma, or abuse, who want to reclaim territory in their relationship with themselves. And when I talk about love story, we're gonna talk more about that tonight. But when we talk about love story, I don't just mean romantic love. Now, today we are going to talk about romantic love, but not just that. It is how we've learned to love and how we have learned to be loved, how we've learned to receive love. That is something that happens early on in our life, and something that we kind of attach to and live out the rest of our lives unless we put intention around changing direction. And that's not always needed. We don't always need to change direction if it's going well, right? You look at the results of your decisions, and if the results don't line up with what it is you say you want, then some intentionality needs to happen to change direction. And so this book is kind of a map for you to do that. So it's an insight into my story and a map for those who are doing that change for themselves. If you would like a copy of I Choose Life, you can find that information at thereboundcoach.com/book. That is thereboundcoach.com/book. There you can find links to Amazon, of course, if that's your preferred vendor, or you can buy one of these hard copies from me and I will personally sign it and send it your way. So wanted to share that with you. So today we have been talking about all things new. That's been the series we've been talking about since January. January is a time, it's the beginning of the Gregorian calendar, Gregorian year, and a lot of people set their intentions for the year in January. And so I wanted to talk about a season that you can participate in. This is more than any sort of resolution, more than even a set of intention. This is a season that you can enter into if you choose. And it's called All Things New. And so we've been talking throughout the month different ways to have all things new in your life. So the first episode of All Things, the first part, we talked about getting your life out of autopilot. And we talked about those New Year's resolutions that people fall off the wagon with. And then part 2, last week, we talked about, are you positioned to endure or to overcome, which are very different energies. So if you are listening, if you're watching this on the replay, if you are listening on Clubhouse and you did not see either one of those episodes, I promise you they are worth going back and listening. Okay. So you can find that for now. You can find that at Facebook, The Rebound Coach, facebook.com/The Rebound Coach. You can find me there. You can find these videos there. All right. They will be posted on YouTube. Also, you can find me YouTube, The Rebound Coach. They will be there eventually. Right now, they're on Facebook. So, all right. So we've been building on this concept of all things new. And so I want to tell you, kind of give you a framework. So in my book, and a foundation too for those who want new patterns in their romantic relationships. So in the very traditional sense of love life, a lot of times people find fulfillment, and there is great fulfillment in companionship, romantic companionship, long-term, sometimes even short-term. There can be fulfillment there, gratification, satisfaction. So people are out to get a new romantic relationship. So, and that's also the case when people come out of trauma. So I serve high achieving women who have lived through betrayal, trauma, and abuse, and are rewriting their stories. And so often, and even as I went through my situation, people would hear about it and they say, oh, well, God's going to send you this other man and happily ever after. You're going to go live happily ever after. And I understood their sentiment of wanting to kind of resolve it. You know, if you think about a movie, there's, a main character, there's a conflict, and there's some sort of a resolution, a happy one or a sad one. But at the end of the movie, we've got a close to the story. And in real life, we often try to kind of put a nice bow on someone's bad situation. So in our mind, there's a happy ending, or there's an ending we can be satisfied with, or a justification we can be satisfied with. That's not real life. That's how movies end and books, but not real life. In real life, we get a choice on how things end. And so for a long time, I was, kind of ticked off when people said that, like, why can't being free, being single be my happy ending? Why do we need a man to make a happy ending? Not that a relationship is not happy or can't be happy, but that shouldn't be dependent. That shouldn't be something you're waiting on to be happy or satisfied or fulfilled. Those are things you can cultivate in your life right now. Happiness, satisfaction, fulfillment. You can cultivate that in your life, whether you have a romantic partner or not. Because truth be told, especially for those of us who live through betrayal in romantic relationships, abuse in romantic relationships, or trauma, you can be in a relationship, living with someone, having sex with someone, married to someone, and not have happiness, satisfaction, or peace even, or safety even, right? So number one, we don't need a romantic relationship to get those things. And in a romantic relationship, we need to cultivate, if you're in a marriage you want to stay in, we need to cultivate happiness, satisfaction, and fulfillment, regardless of your spouse's actions, if you are in a marriage that is safe, and if you're in a marriage you want to stay in. So kind of getting off track from my notes, but I thought that was an important thing to talk about, to add. So there are, in my book, I talk about it, your tree of life. Okay. So these are different areas of life. And if you're looking with me, I'm showing you a picture from the book. But if you imagine a tree and with 7 branches. And so it's not mutually exclusive. I'm sure there are, or I'll say it's not, everything that you could possibly think of, but these are 7 main areas of your life that are very important. They are all relationships, okay? So they're all relationships in different areas of life that help you kind of, and one influences the other. So if we start with your relationship with your creator, your spiritual relationship with God, and then your relationship with yourself. So your relationship with God greatly influences your relationship with yourself, which greatly influences any romantic relationships, which greatly influence your relationship with children, or if you don't have children, the next generation, which greatly influences your relationship with work, which influences your relationship with your community, so your general, neighbors and friends and family members, and your relationship with hope, or your dreams, or your goals, your vision for the future. So it's all connected. And so today I want to talk about your relationship with yourself. So check it out. I was raised traditional Christian. And for a while, I was Pentecostal. For another while, I was non-denominational. Today, I am a Hebrew. However, if you are familiar with some of that nomenclature, it's a big fancy word, y'all. I just heard it a bunch this past couple of weeks. But if you know that terminology, let's say that if you know Christianese, all right, I'm fluent in Christianese. If you know Christianese, you may have seen maybe a meme or a picture or something that says Jesus, others, and you, right? It's trying to tell you what your priorities ought to be if you're a good Christian, right? You're supposed to put Jesus first, then you're supposed to put others next, and then you're last on the priority totem pole, right? And it sounds very pious, it's very religious, and it sounds very noble, and it's very wrong. in my opinion, it's very wrong. And not just wrong, it's counterintuitive to the kind of growth that Jesus followers want to achieve in their life. Okay. And I believe it's stunting people's ability to move forward in their goals and dreams and things that they're here on the earth to do. So, all right. What you can do instead, it's not necessarily Jesus others you. If you think about it, even scriptures tell us to love our neighbor as we love ourselves, So if you're not in a position of loving yourself because you're trying to put others first, you believe that that's the way it ought to be. What do you actually have to offer someone else? If you love your neighbor as you love yourself and you have self-hatred, what do you have for anyone else? If you have perfectionism or self-righteousness, which people have all the time, which I've struggled with on and off my entire life, perfectionism. I am a recovering perfectionist. And that's something that we pride ourselves on in this society, perfectionism, when really that is judgment, self-criticism, and you're never measuring up. So guess what? If I don't believe I measure up, guess what I give to my loved ones? You don't measure up. Now, does it mean that I do that on purpose? Nope. Do I think it consciously? Nope. Does it happen anyway? Absolutely. Here's the principle for our discussion today. What you feed will flourish. What you neglect will die. My mentor says that. What you feed will flourish. What you neglect will die. Another mentor phrases it differently. Energy flows where energy goes. Energy flows where energy goes. That's the principle from the scripture. As a man thinks in his heart, so is he. And several other scriptures around the same concept, where we're putting our mind, where we're putting our energy, where we're putting our thoughts. It creates our life. It creates our lived experience. Now, the sad part of that is a lot of us have created a very negative experience based on what we're putting our energy into. The beauty of it is we can change that. Much intention is required, much energy is required, but we can change the narrative. We can change our reality. We can change our lived experience. And by natural consequence, the people close to us, friends, family, spouses, loved ones, get to benefit from the work you are doing in the garden of your own mind. So I want to talk a little bit about that today, give you some practical things you can do, and we'll call it an evening. Okay. So what you feed will flourish, what you neglect will die. If you're loving your neighbor as yourself, you must also love yourself first. Beloved. Okay. Something we talked about in earlier weeks, you must get rid of the old to get into the new. Who you have been and who you want to be cannot coexist. I'm going to say that again. Who you have been and who you want to be cannot coexist. Cannot coexist. One gives way to the other. And if we are on autopilot, who we want to become is knocked out of the ballpark. So what does that mean? What does that mean in romantic relationships? Okay. That means if we want to have a new kind of romantic relationships, we have to get rid of the ones we've got. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean switching partners, married folks. Not necessarily. But it does mean changing the dynamic in which we relate to other people, which starts with changing the dynamic in the way we relate to ourselves. Okay. That is where it starts. So we often don't know, especially for someone, if you've had an abusive marriage and you're out of that now, and maybe it's been some years and you're looking to try again. Often we don't know what layers of old habits, old patterns, old paradigms, old dances. You know, if you imagine a dance floor and the two partners that have danced a particular dance, like what I explained to you about coping in crisis, it was a dance we were in. It was a cycle we were in. I didn't really know that's what it was until, towards the end, just looking back, I'm like, man, this seems like a cycle. So we live out cycles all the time and don't even notice. So even if that relationship ended, okay, for whatever reason, whatever happened, let's say that relationship ended, years have passed, you'd like to start again, unless we've been intentional around healing and intentional around changing the dance. And even when we have, it's layered and it's deep. And depending on how long you've been dancing a particular dance, your body knows the steps. Muscles have memory. If you can imagine, even if you haven't done it in forever and ever, if they play the song YMCA, a lot of people could just, put their arms up and do the dance, right? Your bodies remember. Like the children's things that you do, the hokey pokey and, all the different children's dances or the children's rhymes and stuff. I have kids now that are learning their rhymes, and I was singing one of mine the other day. Stuff you haven't known in a long time. It comes back because your mind has that memory. Your body has that memory. So in the same way, our spiritual sense, our emotions, our soul, our mind, will, and emotions have memory. And if we've danced a particular dance for a long time, our body knows the steps, right? So it's natural. And so changing our nature is what we're doing. That's the path we're on. Okay. So yes, often we don't know what the layers are until they arise. And they arise when we get into new relationships. We go, oh, what's that? And sometimes it's we've attracted the same partner, right? So they've got a different name, they've got a different face, they come from a different place, but they're kind of behaving the same. And we're talking about in the context of romantic relationships, but it applies across our life. If you keep ending up in jobs where you say, this is a toxic environment, and you get out of that job and you get into another one, you say, this is a toxic environment, and you get out of that job and you get to another one that's a toxic environment, something's wrong. Something is wrong. And we have to look deeper than everybody's out to get me. That might be a belief that you're holding. And that belief might not be true. It might be something you're creating for yourself. Energy grows where energy goes. What you feed will flourish. What you neglect will die. So if we keep telling ourselves, I'm the black sheep, everybody's out to get me, nobody likes me, I can't stand this, I don't succeed at that, oh gosh, it's terrible. Well, guess what? You're going to have all those results, no matter how many jobs you hop to. So changing that narrative, being self-conscious is where it starts. Okay. Self-examination is crucial here. And there's 2 steps to the process. And there's probably more, but I'm only going to talk about 2. Okay. The first step is self-awareness. You can't conquer what you don't confront. You can't confront what you don't identify. So it starts with identification. All right. These are the situations that I keep finding myself in. All right. And so my mentor would say, follow the fruit to the root. Where's that coming from? And you trace it back down. What do I believe about my life that is being confirmed in this situation? What do I believe about myself? What do I believe about love? What do I believe about men or women? What do I believe about sex? What do I believe about marriage that is fulfilling itself in this situation that I don't like? Okay. So trace that down to what it is that you're believing. So that's self-examination is first step. So you find out what it is you're dealing with. Second step is to nurture the opposite energy. Okay. What in the world does that mean? That means if I believe everyone's out to get me, if I believe that, okay, and I don't want to believe that, okay, now your head and your heart will argue right here. Your head will say, but I have all these memories and I have all these words that all these people said to me. And that means everyone's out to get me. I have all these things that happen. That has to mean, or entire people groups are out to get you. For everyone who has racist thoughts, that goes down to, this group is out to get me, or I'm afraid of this group for whatever reason. The white man's out to get me. The black people's out to get me. Whatever, pick your people group. But, same difference. We're dealing with thoughts, ideas, paradigms that continue to live themselves out. So how do we nurture the opposite energy? If I believe everybody's out to get me and nothing works out, what would I say instead? I am safe, loved, welcome, celebrated, honored, secure, right? So instead of everyone's out to get me, everyone's out to bless me. Man, I walk in the blessings every day. This is the true story. Yeah, I walk in the blessings every day. My communities, I thrive in my communities, my work community, my faith community, my family community, my friend community. I thrive in my communities. I am blessed in my communities. I do well there. They respect me. This is the truth. And for me, every community I spend a long time in, I end up in leadership. That's just my path. It ain't everybody's path. But I'm saying, what you feed will flourish. What you neglect will die. What you feed will flourish. What you neglect will die. Energy goes where energy grows, where energy goes. So putting your thoughts, the scripture talks about what to think on. Think on things that are good and lovely and praiseworthy and of good report. If they have virtue, that's what you think on. So there's a reason for that. It's not just, it's nice. It's not just nice. You're creating your lived experience. And so you can nurture energy that is life-giving to your soul, as opposed to things that are going to make you scared, make you anxious, tear your stomach up, give you stress and the ailments that come with stress. Time's out for that. If you're ready for different, be different. Okay, train yourself. It comes through repetition, because guess what? Those other paradigms, those other thoughts, they've been around for a long time. However many years old you are, it's pretty much been there all that time, right? So it's very strong. Your body knows the dance, right? So changing that takes a lot of energy, especially in the beginning. Practical things you can do. Do those 2 things that I talked about, your self-examination, right? Get to the bottom of what you are believing about different areas. In this case, we're talking about your love life. What do you believe about being loved? And it's simple. Don't overthink it. You get a piece of paper. I like to write, but if you like to talk, then talk, however you want to do it. But get you out a piece of paper or say this to yourself. I feel loved when, and just fill in the blank. Don't think hard. Feel and fill in that blank, and be truthful. It doesn't count if you don't tell yourself the truth. I feel loved when I win. I like accomplishing, right? That's something that that I like. And certain things that a certain personality is more likely to feel loved when they reach accomplishment. That happens when you're a kid and you get certain attention when you get certain accomplishments, right? We're not blaming any parents. This is not that conversation. Okay. And that's not productive either. Be careful where your energy grows, where your energy goes. Be careful where you put your attention. It's really powerful. And even today, I had an example. I have a family member who called me and it was like, did you see what happened over here? And this bad thing happened over here. And they say your area is next for this bad thing to happen. And you got to make sure, like a whole bunch of stuff. And it was maybe the third or fourth call of this type from this particular family member. And I said to my family member, I love you. I respect you. And I appreciate your concern. And I believe what you're coming from a good place when you say what you're saying. But I don't choose to put my energy there. I don't choose that. And I said, I'm in a season of blessing, which is the absolute truth. I'm in a season of overflow of blessing. And all I've got to do is keep my hands out to keep receiving the blessing. Why in the whole world would I put my hands down and start focusing on bad things that have not happened? Okay. That is not a place to put my energy. And you can love and respect people who say those things to you and just say, I respectfully decline. I choose not to participate in the panic that you are trying to raise. Okay. Whether or not, it might be true. It might be, but that's not where I'm putting my energy right now. There's too much good happening to put my energy other places. And so I encourage you to do the same. Choose to believe that life and good and abundance and blessing and safety and pleasure and satisfaction and happiness and all the things that we had named earlier are happening in your life. Choose to believe that. No matter what you see with your eyes, choose to believe that love is all around you. In seasons past, I was not able to receive the love from my children, and I knew it existed. I knew my kids loved me, but in my brain, I knew that. In my heart, I could not receive it because I had a deeper paradigm. I had a deeper story I was telling myself about what I was worthy of and what I was even allowed to receive, right? So clearing yourself of the clutter. And when we talk about releasing other people or getting rid of the old in the terms of relationship, you can think about forgiving those who have offended you. If you live through trauma, betrayal, or abuse, there are people behind those stories. They're not just facts or a series of events. There are people connected to those stories. If you've been abused as a child, if you've been abused as an adult, there are people behind those instances. Those people need to be forgiven. Doesn't mean that what they did is okay. It doesn't mean that they're not going to get cosmic justice. It doesn't mean any of those things. It just means that for you, it is not healthy or safe for you to hold the grudge or the right to persecute or the right to be right even. I forgive you. I release you. I bless you. You owe me nothing. You owe me nothing. Does that mean you won't get good? That does not mean that. It don't mean anything. It means you're not God. You're not in control. And as long as you think you're in control, it won't change your control status, but it does mess up a whole bunch of other things. So releasing those people in forgiveness is a step of getting rid of the old. You might have to do that every day. You might have to do that several times a day, especially if you are close to the incidents. Or you are closely reliving. If you've relived the trauma, even after it's done, you're reliving it in your mind and in your heart. You hear those words, you see those pictures, you feel those feelings. That's reliving. Energy grows where energy goes. You are putting energy in the wrong place. Well, I can't help it. You can. It's difficult, especially if you've been in the habit for a long time. It's difficult, not impossible. You can do this. We can help. Okay. So forgiving, releasing, and blessing is helpful in getting rid of the old. Okay. So starting new, having awareness of how I am loved and how I express love. So this is fun. It's fun. This is fun. So think of someone that you love and think about how it is you show that. How do you show someone that you love them? Okay. Now, and then think of someone that you believe loves you. How do you know that they love you? What do they do or say, or what do they not do or not say that shows you that they love you? And so those things help you see for yourself what it is that makes you feel loved and how it is you express love. So again, in achievements, just as an example, for people that I receive love. I've received love when I've achieved something. When I did something good, my parents said, "Hey, good job." That's when I got attention. So I attached that to love, right? Or even better. So last week we talked about being positioned to endure or to overcome, and we talked about the concept of glory in the struggle. So I received a form of love, which, I would say approval is a form of love. So approval in the struggle, when I overcame something, or when I endured something, that was akin to doing good and getting approval. So if that's how I attach to love, well, of course, I choose a marriage that is so hard. And I'm not saying that's the only reason. There's a bunch of things in play, but why I thought that was an okay path for me is because I saw glory in the struggle. And if I struggle and overcome, I won, right? What did I tell you earlier? I feel love when I win, right? So I've got to overcome something, got to win something, right? So no, this was psychoanalytics for Dallas today. But and then how you show love, right? I like to encourage. That's one of the ways that I show love. So I like to encourage people, in particular, encourage them in their pursuits, right? It's one of my favorite things to do. So their career pursuits, their life pursuits. Hey, I want to do this with my life. Like, yeah, you can do it. I want to encourage you. That's one of the ways that I show love, and I like to receive love in that way also. And so there's a 5 love languages book, and that is good. That shows 5 ways of giving and receiving love. That's a great place to start if you're not sure, but really sitting with yourself and just being self-aware, with those exercises I just gave you, is a great place to start. And if you know how it is you receive love, do that for yourself. Do that for yourself. It's so not complicated. Nourish yourself in love. Nourish yourself in love and care and support. And self-care, it's a buzzword. That's not the same as self-comfort. Self-comfort is a pint of ice cream at midnight, or chocolate, or alcohol, or other things that may not be healthy, right? The self-comfort that makes you feel good. Self-care is about helping you to be good, not just feel good, but be good. Healthy choices for your body is self-care. Junk food choices for your body may be self-comfort. And it doesn't mean you can't ever have, comfort food. That's not what I'm saying. But there's a difference. So I just want you to be cognizant of that. And nourishing yourself in love does not always mean something that's not quite a healthy habit, but something that feels good. Okay. So nourish yourself in love, not just the 5 love languages, but your core values, knowing what's important to you, what's valuable to you in yourself and in other people. What are you proud of yourself for? Write those things down and tell yourself that. Sit in a mirror and say, and you say your name, Dallas, I am proud of you for. Dallas, I respect you for. Dallas, I admire you for, right? I'm using my name, but you use yours, right? Celebrate yourself. Celebrate yourself. I like to do, I'm giving you all my secrets today. I like to do board meetings in my house. Okay, we're all working from home. So I sit at my dining room table, and to the right of me or to the left of me, I imagine my career self, right? So I have a professional career outside of life coaching. So I think of myself there and the things that I have to do for that, and talking to that version of me. And then straight across from me is the home version of me. I'm a mom. I take care of my children. I take care of my household. Okay. There's that version of me. And then on the other side is my business side, business/ministry. So I literally have a board meeting. Hi, thanks everyone for coming today. We had a great week last week. I just want to shout out highlights. We did that. We cleaned our house this week. Congratulations, home Dallas. You did a great job. Like literally. And hey, here's for professional Dallas, the career Dallas. Here's what we got going on this week. I think you did a great job. You're doing good over here. Let's focus on that this week. And then talking to my business self. So you might be like, that is weird. And it might be weird. But I tell you what it also is. It's incredibly affirming. And it's a way to highlight those different areas and say, okay, this is what we're looking at. I call a little board meeting with myself. Go team, go. And then we're off to the races. It's something I do, in the beginning of a week. And if I'm doing meal planning or something else, that's the time that happens, right? So we're plotting out or masterminding our life. And that's a strategy you can use for yourself, however it is you'd like to do that. So just wanted to share that with you. So often we get stuck. And so in the description for this tonight, I talked about having your love life being on repeat and getting stuck in cycles. And so often when we get stuck in destructive relationship cycles, you keep meeting the same man over and over. You keep having the same kind of job over and over, and it's a bad situation. Oftentimes it comes back to our identity and our self-love issues. So we talked about that earlier. And those are lenses that might need to be checked. Our lenses, our paradigm, how we see the world can be shifted and changed. And so we create opportunities, we create spaces, we create sanctuary, like the name of the club here on Clubhouse, Sanctuary Experience. I've had the honor and the privilege to create sanctuary experiences for women, women in leadership, women who have lived through trauma and want the next level in their relationship with themselves. Part of what we did this past September, we had a beautiful sanctuary experience. It was a women's retreat, 3 days in Clearwater Beach. And part of what we did was a runway walk. We did a photo shoot with the ladies who attended, and it was a lot of fun. It wasn't just for fun. That was, having fun is part of the reason why we do retreats. But it wasn't just that. It was after we do all of this soul work, after we go deep in the spirit and change things for ourselves, we need to celebrate. Celebrating is just as important as self-examination. It's just as important as doing affirmations. It's just as important as all the other work we do to improve our lives. Okay, celebration is its own reward. And so we did some fun celebrating, and I had a fashion modeling expert come in and teach us how to carry our bodies with confidence. And we practiced. It was a lot of fun, and we took really amazing pictures. You can see them at thereboundcoach.com/sanctuary. You can also see them on the Facebook page, some of the photos. But I want to share a testimony with you from one of the presenters at Sanctuary. We are having another opportunity for a Sanctuaries retreat, Sanctuary experience this April 2022. It's actually April 8th through the 10th. So mark your calendars, April 8th through the 10th, and we will be in Clearwater Beach again. So for audio, I just want to share this.
Hi, my name is Brianna, and I'm here at the Sanctuary Experience with Dallas Cohen. My experience here was amazing. I was only here for a day, but the amount of just value that came from the day here was something that I couldn't even react to, in a sense of I didn't expect. So it's been amazing to be around beautiful women who not only made me feel comfortable and safe, but also gave me a lot of information that I can go home and kind of feel confident about myself. Overall, I think that this experience here taught me how to pick up my fight when it comes down to it. That's really what stuck to me. And overall, we all have a responsibility in this world, and as according to God's purpose. So we gotta understand just what that means within ourselves, and once you do, you can fully indulge yourself in it and completely just go for it with no fear. So anywho, I hope that anyone who's watching this knows that they should also try to come by if they can. If you hear about the Sanctuary Experience with Dallas Cohen, please, please, please come, because you will get a plethora of information and sisterhood and beauty that you can live, that can live with you forever. So thank you.
All right. So I wanted to share that with you because there is another opportunity to participate in a Sanctuary Experience this April Friday, April 8th through Sunday, April 10th in Clearwater Beach, Florida. There is an early bird special going on right now. It will not be on forever. And this is an intimate retreat. That means there are only a limited amount of women who are allowed to participate. We go deep. There's a lot that pours out of our sanctuary facilitators, and we do not want to overtax ourselves. So there is a limit of maybe 10 or 15 women who are allowed to participate. If you would like to be one of those people, your next step is going to thereboundcoach.com/sanctuary, and you can set up a chat with me. I'd like to get to know you. If you're watching this replay or you're listening on Clubhouse and you're like, I want to know more, let's talk about it. All right. thereboundcoach.com/sanctuary. You can see more information on there about the upcoming retreat. And so if you are ready for that kind of movement, I'm ready to help you. I also do one-on-one and group coaching. So if you're wanting something more long-term to work on some goals for yourself of rewriting your love story and changing your legacy, I am more than happy to be your escort, your facilitator in that work. It can very well start with the I Choose Life book, Rewrite Your Love Story and Change Your Legacy. You can find all of this information at thereboundcoach.com. Of course, I am also on Facebook at The Rebound Coach, Instagram, The Rebound Coach, Clubhouse, The Rebound Coach, and in any other way, I'm more than happy to connect with you. Thank you so much for coming to share a part of this conversation. I am so very grateful that you are here, and I would love to hear your story, your questions, your concerns, your thoughts, your ideas. Thank you in advance for sharing your life with me, even one little part. So have a wonderful night, and until next time, choose life.